Hey, welcome to Maths Chat. Today I'm going to show you how to factorize monic quadratics. Monic stands for 1. So this is when we've got a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 and a is equal to 1. So you notice in these three examples that now I've got 3 terms in each of my expressions. This means that we need to factorize in a slightly different way. How to factorize these is I first ask myself, and this is a really cool trick, I need to find two numbers that multiply together to make my third term and add together to make my second coefficient of x. 2 numbers that multiply together to make 8 and add together to make positive 6. A lot of students struggle to come up with those 2 numbers. You really need to know your times tables off by heart so that you can quickly come up with the factors. So really quickly, if I'm thinking of factors of 8, I've got 1 and 8. Obviously those don't add together to make 6. I've got 2 and 4. Now 2 and 4, they do add together to make 6. So I'll just write in small up here, 2, 4. Okay, they're the 2 numbers I'm working with. What we do at that point is I can break this up into those 2 numbers. So x squared stays as is, plus 2x plus 4x plus 8. So I'm doing the opposite of simplifying. I've found those 2 numbers and I've broken that 6 up into 2x plus 4x because that is equal to 6x. Now the next part is I factorize my first half. I take x out as a common factor, x plus 2. So I'm just looking at those ones. Then I'm going to look at the second part and I'm going to factorize that. So 4x plus 8, take out 4, and I'm left with x plus 2. You'll see that I've now got x plus 2 as a factor of both. So I've broken it into 2 terms now, but x plus 2 is a factor. Then I can take out x plus 2, and I'm left with x plus 4. So I've taken that out as a common factor, and what's left over is x plus 4. And that is my answer factorized. Sometimes people like to just jump to this because obviously 2 presents itself there and 4 presents itself here. So some people can jump from here to here, but this is just to show you what's going on behind the scenes. So I might show you the next one doing it jumping from here to here. So again, we've got to ask ourselves, what 2 numbers multiply together to make negative 12 and add together to make a negative 1? Reminder, there's an invisible 1 in front of this x. Those 2 are negative 4 and positive 3. Now I wanted you to see this example because I wanted you to see that when we've got a negative here, negative 4 times positive 3, that's actually going to create a negative as my third term. Just like how when there's a negative here, it means that the bigger number of these 2 will have to be the negative, which is why I know the 4 is the negative. This means I can jump to this stage where I factorize it straight up. X minus 4, x plus 3. And that's it. So as you'll notice, one of the trickier parts is coming up with the factors in the first place, the factors and the numbers that add together to make that second coefficient. Although this does not have a coefficient of 1, this first term, I really want to show you this so that you can get used to some of the most important things to remember when factorizing. Now if I look at these 3 values, and if I look at any problem that's asked me to factorize, I always need to say to myself, is there a common factor in all of the terms? Up here, obviously there wasn't, which is a bit of a dead giveaway when this is a 1 out the front of each of those x squared. In this case though, I've got the 3 out the front. Is there a common factor between these 3? And yes, that is 3. So before I do anything else, I need to make sure that I take that 3 out as a common factor. I'm going to rewrite this whole thing. 3x squared minus 7x plus 12. I've divided each of those by 3, which is one of the fundamental things when factorising. And now I can work with what I've got inside the brackets. I'm going to follow along with this process. Is there two numbers that multiply together to make positive 12 and add together to make negative 7? Looking back up here, we've had a similar one where we had 12 on the end. Now, think of the factors of 12. We've got 2 and 6. They don't add together to make negative 7 though. We've got 3 and 4. Now remember, this has to be a positive and this one has to be a negative. So 3 and 4, they multiply together to make 12 and add together to make 7. However, I want them to equal negative 7. Thinking about when you multiply two negatives, if these are both negative, they still multiply together to make positive 12 and they still add together to make negative 7 because negative 3, negative 4 is negative 7. And again, I'm going to show you this step because sometimes you need to see it twice for it to really be consolidated. So at this stage, I'm just looking at this first half. The common factor out of those ones is x. So I take x out and I'm left with x minus 3. Then I'm looking at this one, negative 4x plus 12. So now I'm actually going to take out negative 4. And I'm left with x minus 3 because 12 divided by negative 4 is equal to negative 3. And don't forget that we've got that bracket closed as well. Now I've got 3. Again, because x minus 3 is a common factor, I take it out. X minus 3 left with x minus 4. Now I got rid of those brackets as well because with multiplication it doesn't matter what order, but often we'll write the number out the front like here and then just write those next to each other. You don't need to show the times because remember there's invisible times between each of them. And that's it. So as you can see, knowing your times tables is really important for this topic and this concept. I really encourage you to learn your times tables off by heart so that when you're in an instance such as this, you can come up with factors very easily. Alright, so that's all for today. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe and also leave your lovely comments below. Bye!